welcome back to my channel. I'm here with sort of a pregnancy video. It's a labor and delivery story, but it is from my first son who I had 10 years ago. I've never shared this story on here, but because I have another labor and delivery coming up very soon, I thought I'd get the story out so that one, I don't confuse them, and two, so that we can compare the differences. A lot of people, including myself and my doctor, say that though this is my second pregnancy, it's almost as if it's my first because there's been 10 years in between my first and this one. So with my first son, he was due January 15th and he came on January 17th. So he was 2 days late. So I was 40 weeks and 2 days. I went into labor, well, I started having like contractions at home at 9 p.m. and I was 17 at the time, if that matters at all to you guys. I'm 27 now, so with this baby, I'll be 27. So I went into labor, started having contractions at 9 p.m. And at first I could like breathe through them and stuff, but everyone was asleep. So I went out to the living room where we had a rocking chair, and I sat in that rocking chair and I kind of just kept track on my phone of how frequently they were coming. I didn't time them, I just kept record of when they would like start. And I would just rock in the chair and breathe through them to the best of my ability. And then it kind of got to a point where I couldn't really handle it anymore. So I went into my shower and I was using the hot water to try and like help soothe through the contractions. And then I was starting to get sick. So I was vomiting and I also had diarrhea, beautiful symptoms of labor and delivery. And I just was at a point where I couldn't handle the pain anymore. So I woke my mom up and it was time to go to the hospital, and it was 4 o'clock in the morning. So I labored from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. at home by myself. And then we drove about 40 minutes to the hospital where my best friend Savannah actually beat me to the hospital, which was funny. They were like, there's nobody here by that name yet. So she beat me there. But anyways, once I got to the hospital, they take you to triage and they connected me up to the monitors to check on the fetal heart rate and also on the contractions. They also checked my cervix, and I was 4 centimeters dilated. So when I got there, I was 4 centimeters dilated. My contractions were regular and I was in active labor. So from that point, I obviously got my own room and I continued to labor naturally. They had a jetted tub, so I opted to go into the jetted tub, and I'll be honest, it only does so much. It doesn't help a ton. I'm still opting to try it again this time because honestly, anything to soothe it, I'm gonna try. So I went into the tub for a little while. While I was in the tub, I asked them if I could have a narcotic, and they were like, well, we're gonna have to give you an IV if you get a narcotic. And I was like, okay, just kidding, never mind, because I hate needles and I am very afraid of them. So I delayed the narcotic. And I ended up getting out of the tub and I went and laid down in bed. And then a little while later, I was like, okay, I want the narcotic now. So I opted for it, but it didn't take away the pain completely. And it only lasted about 30 minutes is what it felt like. So I got a little bit of relief for about 30 minutes. They did have to give me an IV. And then the second dose, they can give you more than one dose. The problem is the second dose doesn't always work. And from my understanding, they're not completely sure scientifically if it's because your body is now used to it or if it's because you're in so much pain, like the pain level is just up so high that it doesn't really do anything. So the second dose did not work. And I wanted to get back into the tub. So I was like, I want to go back in the tub, because you can still, with the narcotic, you can still move around. It's, you do just have to take the IV with you. So I wanted to get back into the tub. However, they couldn't find Vari's heart rate on the strap monitor. So they inserted, I don't know what it is, but they insert something and they try and put it on their head to try and get the heart rate, but they couldn't find it there either. So they refused to let me back in the tub. They immediately laid me down on the bed. They called in nurses and it was go time. They checked me. I was close enough to 10 centimeters to start pushing, but they didn't have time to let me push naturally. So normally, I feel like I'm talking really fast. I always talk this fast. Jeez. Normally they, some people will take like 2 hours to push and some people take 5 minutes or 30 minutes. And they just kind of let your body do it naturally. Your body will naturally stretch out and the baby just comes. But they could not let me do that. They needed to get him out immediately because he wasn't breathing. Or they didn't think he was breathing because they couldn't find a heart rate. So they ended up giving me an episiotomy. Mind you, at this point, there's about 20 people in the room, mainly nurses. There to, one, assist with the delivery, and two, to take care of baby once he is out. So it was very scary. Still no other pain medication. The narcotic had worn off long ago and I'm doing it naturally. And so they gave me an episiotomy. They did attempt to numb me, but there wasn't enough time to allow it to kick in. So the needles, which I didn't know this at the time because I was in so much pain and worried about the baby, but in the video I have, the needles are like this long and they go on the inside of your vagina and on both sides. It was not pretty, and they snipped me from front to back, and that's obvious, that's an episiotomy. And they also proceeded to use the forceps and the vacuum to try and get him out immediately. So he was born at 10:15 in the morning. So 9 p.m. to 10 a.m. is about 13 hours. However, if you consider like when they start to consider you active labor, so from about 4 centimeters, it was about 6 hours until I gave birth. And he was black and blue. The cord was wrapped around his neck, and then his arm was up and the cord was wrapped around his like arm and neck, which is why he wasn't breathing. And so they did not put him on my chest. They immediately rushed him over to the table and tried to get him to breathe, and he did, and he didn't have any other complications. Once they got him breathing, he was fine and he was good to go. They had to obviously stitch me up because of that, and the baby was handed to me not until almost when they were done stitching. It had been like an hour before they gave him back to me to hold for the very first time. So it was kind of a traumatic experience for me, as just because of how, like, just the ending, like so many people rushed in and I was getting an episiotomy and vacuum and he's not breathing and they won't let me hold him and I can't see him because he's like around the corner, like where they have their like little unit thing, and it was kind of like just like the way the bed was positioned and stuff, like I couldn't see him. So I'm just like trying to listen for him and I'm like, nobody's giving me any information. And finally I got like a nurse to like tell me like what's going on. I'm really hoping this next one is not like that. But most importantly, he was okay. He came out like a head full of hair. I'll try and like insert a picture somewhere here. And head full of hair. He was 8 pounds, 4 ounces, and 21 inches. I'm sorry. This is pregnancy for you. I have like hiccups / indigestion. This is real attractive. Not to mention my hair looks like garbage because it's been a long day at work. It's fine. This is normal, guys. 8 pounds, 4 ounces, 21 inches long, head full of hair. He, aside from not breathing when he was first born, he did not have any other complications. Everything else was great. I was actually born at 8 pounds, 4 ounces as well, so that's kind of special. And he was born at 10:15 in the morning. Overall, like, to me, it feels like a long labor, but if you compare it to a lot of people's labors, it was really short. Like, I have family and friends who labored for like 2 days. You know, it was obviously not active labor, because active labor is when they're like really close together and progressive and working. So my active labor was much shorter, but anyways, I am a little concerned this one's going to be like a super fast labor, but at the same time, because my pregnancies are so far apart and this is my first, like, it's almost as if it's my first baby, even though it's not. It's been 10 years though. Like, my body's like completely recovered. It's completely different. I don't know if this baby's going to come early or late. I don't know if it's going to be a faster labor because it's technically my second child, or if it's going to be longer. Like, it's just all brand new. Like, there is no like inclination as to what it could be, or like my doctor doesn't have any idea, because it's not like I had a baby 18 months ago or 2 years ago. A lot of people start planning for babies like 2 years, 18 months apart, and I waited 10 years. So it's a whole new ball game. I am obviously much older, and my hormones and my body is 100% different than it was before. I am interested in seeing how the recovery goes this time. If I do deliver naturally and not C-section, because you never know what could happen. I'm curious if I have to have an episiotomy, if I have to have stitches. My episiotomy healed, but I had complications later, like a few years later, when I became sexually active again, when my son was around 2, and I ended up having to go to the doctors and get like a thickening cream, because my perineum was so thin it would tear and cause a lot of irritation and pain and discomfort during intercourse, or whatever you want to call it. Such a proper term. During sex, okay? It was uncomfortable. So the episiotomy was not fun to recover from. It took a while, but it healed. And then 2 years later, when I was sexually active again, I had a thinner perineum, so I had to fix that. And once I fixed that, like, everything's been fine. But now, like, who knows if I have to have another episiotomy, or if I have to have stitches, if I'll tear, if I'm more likely to tear, and what the recovery will be like. Who knows? I'm rambling at this point. But that was my like labor and delivery story for Vari. So we shall see what this labor and delivery story is like. If it's similar, if it's completely different. I'm curious. I'm hoping for the best. I just want a healthy baby at the end of the day. But going into it, I was gonna make a separate video, but I'll just briefly speak about it here. My plan is to try and go naturally again, but this time I am much more open to the epidural. My issue with the epidural is obviously, number 1, the needle. Number 2, I don't like being confined to a bed. I like to be able to use the tub. I want to be able to walk around, things like that. I will say my biggest, I don't want to say regret, but something I wish I did more of with my labor with Vari was, again, indigestion. Was move around. I did use the tub, but aside from the tub, I just laid in the bed. And when you're sick, you know, like laying in the bed is not, it's not beneficial. So I'm hoping like this time I will like maybe lean over the bed but still be standing up, allow gravity to do its thing, walk around a little bit. Also, I had really bad back labor. I guess I forgot to mention that. Really bad back labor with Vari. And being able to sway your hips back and forth, as I've learned later, would have been helpful. So obviously I'm going to try that this time. If I have back labor, who knows? So yeah, if you have any questions about my first delivery when I was 17 years old, attractive. I know, this pregnancy is all attractive. It's great. If you have any questions about my pregnancy or delivery from when I was 17, please leave those questions or comments down below. And of course, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. And hopefully, I don't know when this video is going up, but if you haven't seen them already, I am planning on filming some videos with my fiance, Ryan. So there will be some like a switch up. It won't be all pregnancy related, and there will be a little bit of a break for you. So look for those videos. If you haven't seen them already, go watch them or subscribe so you know when they come out. But I appreciate you guys, and I will see you all next time. Bye guys.